It's Jake. And this is... I'm just kidding. It's about to be some ASMR Dawnbringers. Hey, Internet, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is the Dawnbringers Q&A Spectacular, because that's a word I'm going to use to describe this. We are getting ready to take our holiday break until the new year, and we thought, why not do a sort of an AMA Q&A session? We can ask each other questions. Who turned off their camera? One of you.
I think that was me by mistake. Blame me.
You know what? I'm going to leave it.
Just Ted lost connection for a second.
No, because if people come in here and they want to know who you are, so everybody but V.
I'm good.
Everybody but V, turn your cameras off real quick.
Hee hee.
So we were going to do this this next week. Ted, you're up next. But I suddenly remembered, Megan, you're next. Not you, Jeremy. Then you, Jeremy. Then Scotty. We were going to do this next week, but I remembered, wait a minute, next Thursday is December 19th, and I'm going to be sitting in a movie theater. At this point, I will have already finished and probably be on my way home from Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, because that's a priority for me. So yeah, we're gonna have some fun tonight. At any point, all of you hanging out in the chat with us, you can ask questions about the game, about the characters, about the players. It might be a good idea if you have a question to preface it with all caps question, and that'll draw our attention to it. But yeah, we're gonna kind of unpack the Dawnbringers a little bit, talk about the game and everything going on behind it, and we'll get to your questions as you have them. First off, I just want to say I believe this is technically episode 16 of the third season, which means that with the one-shots and everything else that we've done, we have, as a group, played for about a year and a half, and we have played about 45 sessions with an average of 2.5 hours per session. That is something like 120 hours that we've played together. Factor in that Ted and V and I rather play once a month on Nerdarchy's channel. Megan plays in just about every game that's streamed on this channel. I think Megan, if we went back and figured it out, you and I've probably played over the last couple years. I bet we've played more than 500 hours together.
That sounds right.
Karen, Myth and Gears in the chat, has the first question for the group. What is each player's drink of choice? I'll start. Right now, I am drinking a mug of coffee, but I occasionally like to have some wine or bourbon or vodka or just about, well, anything alcoholic.
Now it sounded like a country song.
Sorry. I like my coffee and my beer and wine and booze. And that's all the singing you'll get from me tonight.
Please.
V, what's your drink of choice?
Drink of choice for me is always vodka soda. Like basically just club soda water and vodka mixed together. Sometimes I'll do like a little spritzer of lime or lemon, and yeah, I hydrate and I get tipsy. It's wonderful.
That explains so much.
Well, add in the gummy bears and it's a lot of fun.
Right. And the sugar rush.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what about you?
So I actually don't drink alcohol very often, but when I do, I typically drink a Long Island iced tea, or rum and Dr. Pepper. But tonight I'm drinking sweet tea because I'm from the South.
All right. Excellent. Ted, what about you?
I am, worse than Jeremy. I am non-alcoholic all the time. It's a choice. My typical gaming drink is a raspberry iced tea. For those local to the East Coast area, I prefer to get it from Wawa. If you don't know what that is, then I feel sorry for you. But tonight I am drinking, to stay awake, a Mountain Dew.
Megan, what about you? Oh, and Ted, we don't hold it against you, and I wouldn't say you're worse than Jeremy for not drinking.
Well,
drinking drinking or not drinking is a valid choice either way. What about you, Megan? What's your drink of choice?
Well, what I do drink, which also isn't that much, but what I do drink, I drink rum and Coke or wine. And usually when I'm gaming, I drink water with like the Crystal Light in it. But Connor drank it all, so I'm just stuck with water today.
And which is probably good. Being sick, you need to hydrate. Scotty, what is your drink of choice?
I'm not much of a drinker. I'll have a drink at a restaurant or something like that. But usually it's coffee. But if I'm at a restaurant and maybe get a drink, it's the foofiest drink on the menu. It's like, what'd you get? It's like the fruit explosion or whatever.
I once went out with some friends and we, just because we wanted to and we were curious, we ordered one of those like $30 overly sized margaritas that's for like everybody at the table. And I think we ordered 2 of them. I think that's the trick. All right, we've got 2 questions actually coming in from Fellowship. I missed the first one, but was reminded Fellowship has asked us what our favorite color is. I'm finding that I'm in a season of blues lately, probably for the last year or so. I like deep reds, but blues are blues that kind of, especially if they are muted or go into that, look at my background here. I mean, I like that. I mean, you look up here at the Saltmarsh logo, in the background up here, the words down at the bottom. I guess it's pretty evident that I like blues. Scotty, favorite color?
My favorite color, well, I guess absence of color, is black.
All right.
I've always been partial to like black or grays. Yeah, so not very exciting.
Fellowship says that was a joke, but we're taking it seriously. Megan, what's your favorite color?
I like green or purple. Mostly purple. Unless I'm with Karen, Myth and Gears, because she always takes the purple when we play board games. She always takes the purple color. So
Yeah, Karen has in one of our streams, she wore the Mini Terrain Domain Tavern logo shirt that she got on a purple shirt. This is the first time I'd seen that. And Thorg, good lord. I had Ted in my mind, and I looked at your nameplate.
But that's a good nickname.
That's going to be how Talmud refers to him from now on.
Thor.
Cousin Thor.
I've been stumbling over Thorgarn's name since he joined the campaign.
Oh, that's okay. They like to call me Thorgarn too. So
I know that's a biggie with me.
I think we've called you Thorgarn a few times, or more often than not, I call you Talmud. So, what's your favorite color, Thorg?
So over the years, it is bended and twisted in a lot of different directions. But currently, I'm going back to my first favorite color, and that which I'm wearing tonight, orange. It's a color of energy. It's vibrant. It's eye-catching. And I feel, at this point in time, it's something that, I need the extra energy. So I'm going with it.
And it's the opposite of blue.
But it goes really well with blue.
Yes.
So. That's why.
From a design perspective, those are two of, especially for science fiction, those are 2 of my favorite colors to pair. I use that. I think that pairing was the base design our palette for the Bastards of Bastion sci-fi miniseries that I ran almost 2 years ago, I think. Megan was in that. Jeremy.
So I definitely have changed over the years. And I like a lot of different colors, especially being somebody who paints and likes art. I find myself drawn to a lot of different colors, but deep purple always strikes a chord with me. Like a really, really dark, almost black purple, I would have to say is probably my favorite color.
All right. So see that we handled your so-called joke question. I'm going to hold his other question. I'll pose it out there and then let you guys just think on it while we go and we'll talk about some other things. But Fellowship, who for those of you who might not know, Fellowship of the Tables is actually he's not the only, because several of the players are also moderators, but Fellowship of the Tables is actually the first non-player moderator that we've had on the channel, and he always does such a wonderful job, and is almost single-handedly responsible for stopping the Discord from fading away into oblivion, because I was about to close the Discord server when Fellowship joined the Fellowship, and he started right away promoting the Discord server in there and got a lot more people coming in, and it's a bit quiet there from time to time, but people still do post in there, and occasionally will share some of their crafting photos and other things. So, Fellowship, we appreciate you. But Fellowship's question for you is, or for all of us, is what are each of your favorite RPG memories? So just kind of...
You didn't ask V's favorite color.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a Sophie's choice for me, so I was perfectly fine with that one sliding, but no.
I forgot that I didn't start with V that time. What is your favorite color, V?
Jewel tones.
What?
Jewel tones.
Oh, jewel tones.
Yeah, I gravitate towards jewel tones. There's no specific color, but those are definitely the ones that I go grabby hands over.
Okay. Cool. Yep. Fellowship just promoted the Discord again.
Yep.
I forgot I set the Discord channel up as a thing, or maybe I didn't. I don't know. Anyway, so we started Dawnbringers. Actually, when Dawnbringers started, it wasn't even called Dawnbringers. Dawnbringers didn't become the name of this campaign until the end of Season 1. And I'm sure everybody remembers this, but I'm going to ask Ted, who was it that came up with the name Dawnbringers for the Dawnbringers? Which character?
That I don't know. I watched them all, but that was before we started, or before I joined the game, and that was a while ago. So I'm sorry, I can't tell you.
You've since had almost a year of your own sessions of memories to crowd out that one. And technically, you wouldn't know because you weren't there for that.
Thorgarn would know, but Ted should know.
Right?
Anybody else? I can make a guess and see if I'm right, but I'm not gonna cheese it.
All right. Who knows? Shout your answer.
Who came up with it?
Yeah.
It was Scotty.
Yep. It was kind of in game as I remember it. Griveth just kind of, I think somebody asked you, what are you, I think it was the mayor of the Oakhurst that had said something to the effect of, what do we call you? And after some discussion, as players, we had some discussion, and then in the moment, Griveth just shouted out, "Dawnbringers!" And it stopped.
Which he still does.
Yep.
Yeah, I still do.
He still does shout it out occasionally.
I wanted
Dawnbringers coming through.
Door knockers. Yeah, also
all
after
the doors we had that first season.
After that first season. So for those
I have to say, I definitely like Dawnbringers over door knockers.
No, I know. It was just hey, it was Cantriel saying it.
Personally,
well, we ran into so many doors.
But that's why many jokes.
That's why we had door
knockers.
Personally, I wanted to just shorten it to knockers, but I got knocked off the list.
Yeah, that might be infringing on someone else's brand, though. You never know.
Oh gosh.
The Maharishi 66 says, not so much a question, just a declaration of a dream to one day DM a one-shot with all of you at my table. With that, I have to go. Bye.
I gotta go now. Bye.
Well, many of us have, well, most of us got our start doing this online by playing with people we didn't really know. So, yeah. In fact, this game wouldn't exist were it not for Wylock.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah, true. That's a good
Mr.
point.
Bill Buchanan, about a year and a half ago, because it was in 2017, I believe.
Wow, was it?
I believe it was 2017.
Yeah.
Wow, jeez.
Holy
So,
cannoli.
no, was it 2017?
Well, yeah, it would have been.
That
Yeah, I
seems
guess
right.
so.
Yeah, that seems
He
right.
put together a 5-shot with myself, V. We had Jim, the I'm stumbling over his channel name, the tabletop engineer. Is that
Tabletop
right?
engineer.
And then we had John Suski from Dungeons and Glue Sticks.
Mm-hmm.
My
He's
memory
back
is
to crafting, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah,
She's not gonna do the
I've
channel
seen
part.
that.
Yeah.
Who was it? Just the 4 of us playing, or did we have a fifth?
It was the 4 of us playing with Wylock.
With Wylock
running the
DMing,
game, and then
and
Scotty came in as the big bad at the end.
Yeah, and then Scotty
I
was
was
our
like the
surprise big
surprise.
bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was just a nice little 5-shot. Wylock ran it through Roll20, and he himself was pretty new to streaming games, and was dealing with learning the technology, but had wonderful like music set up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was a adventure of his own design too, based off of some terrain that he had made, and you can actually see on his. In fact, you can see that game on his channel.
Oh yeah.
On Wylock's Crafting. I think the channel is called Wylock's Crafting Vids.
Yes.
And following that game, I offered to run a 5-shot, and schedules just could not line up.
Mm-mm.
It literally wound up being that it was just V and I.
Yeah.
And V and I did not know. Well, we knew each other by reputation. Through the Tabletop Crafting Guild and through Twitter and stuff like that, but we had never actually interacted until that game of Wylock's, and our characters just clicked.
Oh my God,
I was playing
so much fun.
I was playing a rogue in that game.
I was playing a ranger.
You were playing a ranger, and yeah, our characters just clicked, and then
Morganite and Benedict, right?
Yep, yep, and then. So it didn't work out, and then I started reaching out to some people, and I reached out to Megan and Jeremy, and I reached out to Scotty, and I was ecstatic when everybody could join, and we've long since come to terms. It seems like a weird way to say it. Gotten used to, but it was a big deal for myself. I know it was a big deal for Jeremy when he got to play in this game. That Scotty was an inspiration to us to get us started in the crafting, into the crafting. I have back here behind my green screen, I've got my purple worm that I built based off of Scotty's tutorial some 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
That I still love that thing. It's one of my favorite pieces, and it's because I found your channel. So it was pretty awesome to be able to have you join for what was ostensibly 5 games. And from that very first game, if you go back on Mini Terrain Domain to the Sunless Citadel, it's since been renamed Dawnbringers Season 1, Episode 1. You will see that magic happen. There was this weird, unexpected, perfect, just chemistry that happened between all of us at the table and the audience that we we just fell into this perfect groove of interacting with the chat, which is not usually done during live stream D&D games. And we found this great balance between immersive, serious role play, some joking, some what we call the beer and pretzel type of gameplay, and interacting with the chat that has given license to a certain couple of sometimes adolescents that go crazy. Being like, I feel like I need to separate them sometimes.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But we realized, I think by the second or third session, we were saying, is this only going to be 5? Do we want to keep playing? And I decided to play it safe and said, I kind of planned it for about 12 sessions. And that's what we wound up doing. The first season was 12 sessions. And by that point, Ted and I had been playing together for a while already. Ted had invited me probably close to, it would have been around that time, maybe half a year or a year before that. I don't remember exactly when we started playing, but to join the Nerdarchy monthly RPG crate game. And Ted and I started talking. We would hang out after everybody else left and just talk for a little while, and getting to know each other a little bit better and becoming friends. And Ted had said, man, I wish I had a group that I could play with on a regular basis. And I said, I'll get you in something someday. And then as we came to the end of that season, it seemed like it would be a good fit. There was a natural progression to go into we were already planning to go into the Forge of Fury. And so I just proposed it to the rest of the group, and everybody said, yeah, let's do it. Ted binge watched the first 12 episodes in a very short amount of time. And it's, we're in our third season, and it's like Ted has been here all along. And I can't imagine it without him. So this group, we all say it online, we say it offline often after our games. But this has become, for me, and I know for pretty much everybody here, this Thursday night game has become a sort of a refuge for us. Yep. It's a safe zone, a place amongst friends, and we're family. We trust each other as friends. We talk constantly offline. If you could just be a fly on the wall in one day's chat,
Oops.
It would be nuts. And you don't even know what goes on in the side chat during a game. But I'll tell you what, you can see a visual representation of the side chat by watching these two during any given game. But yeah, so we've just decided that we're going to keep playing this game as long as we can. I've been able to really start working with these amazing characters and weaving in backstories and things that stretch across the campaigns. Megan retired her first character at the end of the first season because it made narrative sense to do so, but that also gave us Fig, the incredible character of Fig, which will be really heart-wrenching when Fig has to fight the ultimate big bad evil guy, Vi. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No. Cantriel will walk away.
But I have done I've done a little bit of cross campaign pollination with some characters that show up in one campaign will show up in another one. I love doing that, having this sort of shared world. But yeah, that was sort of an overview of where we are. With Ghosts of Saltmarsh Season 3, we are right about where we ended, episode-wise, where we ended Season 2. But this Ghosts of Saltmarsh is such a rich area, and there's so much more to explore that I think we'll be here for a little while. This will be a little bit longer season. We've had a couple guests come in this season. We've had the amazing Kelly, the opera geek, came in with her in one of the early sessions of the season with her Ira, the sea elf, a very spunky captain of her own ship, who made instant friends with some of the party and perhaps not so friendly with some of the other. And then we relatively recently met Dan Dillon's character of Drown. And we're we're pretty sure we haven't seen the last of Drown. So look for in the new year seeing Drown come back.
So do special guests all have to be blue?
Yes.
You know,
It's in the contract. They
I
have
would
to
think
match
so.
the background.
Ira was a CL. Drown was a water genasi.
That's a rider that I put in everybody's contract. You must play a blue character. Our next guest is going to be a Smurf.
Well,
I thought you were going to say Locrius.
that would be awesome because Locrius is literally blue.
So I mean, you could still, if you want to go more with the old school thought, you could still go with a blue dragonborn or a blue tiefling. There's still room to stretch.
I'll come in as a guest. I'll play my own.
6 days of summer.
Well, 6 isn't
You're
blue
right.
though.
Yeah, but still, it'd
He's
be fun to have
gray,
him in
but he wears
Cantriel.
blue and gold. No, I was gonna say Parthas Zerg, the blue dragonborn from the last season of our RPG Crate game.
Yep.
So
He was fun.
So I'm going to right now. I'm going to let this we'll go around the horn here and see or just shout your answer or shout it out if you have it. Do any of you have any questions for any of us? Questions about characters or the game?
I don't want to ask questions about characters. I think it's fun to see how things come out in play. But we've got this family here, and I'd love to know because I haven't had as much time to sit down and chat game stuff. How long everyone's been playing?
Ooh.
I mean, I've been playing about 26 years throughout the variety of editions of D&D. So I'll throw that out to everybody else.
Almost 4 years? If I'm mathing that correctly. Yeah, almost 4 years now.
So I've been playing pretty consistently since I was 14, so 25 years now. But I've run or hosted a home group at my house weekly for the last 19 years.
Wow.
So I play very frequently.
That's impressive.
Wow.
Yeah, some of my closest, dearest friends. We all go to each other's kids' birthday parties. We, take 2 trips a year with each other. It's fantastic.
I know
amazing.
of at least one of your players, I believe one of your players in your home group that is now a Twitter follower and actually pops in on the channel from time to time.
It's very possible. There is one of the people in my group that is on Twitch herself. She plays Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's Tori.
Yeah.
She's the spouse of my best friend Mike. Both very, very awesome people.
What about you, Megan?
So I actually had to look because I was desperately trying to find when I started playing, because I had only played once before, and I actually hated D&D when I first started playing it, which was in 2016, and then I only started really playing in 2017, so it's been about 2 years.
Wow.
And in that time has also published a module with her husband.
So what made you not like, now that you've had time to reflect on that first game, Megan, what made you not like the game?
It was very much the group.
Nerds.
I was like, ew, nerds, gross.
Not them.
They played it very much like a board game.
Oh, yeah.
I think for me it was very much like okay, well, except that they would do really stupid things, and because I don't know, it was like, oh, I blind this orc because the light gleams off my glistening oiled abs. What roll do I make for that? And I'm like, okay. I don't know. But then actually I was introduced to the role. Matt. I keep wanting to say Dawnbringers, but it's not.
Provokers.
Provokers. Thank you.
Matt Click.
Yeah, I
Matt
got
Click,
introduced to
Fistful
his
of
game,
Dice, Provoker Season 1 and 2.
and I pointed to that after Connor showed me a little bit. Like, I want that. A very narrative, story-driven, just awesome storytelling games. And then I discovered BabTab.
Yeah, having played with you for many, many games over the last couple of years, I can understand why that group was not your cup of tea. What about you, Scotty? How long have you been playing?
Oh my gosh, it's weird because it's hard to figure out because, like, you know, I played as a teenager, which was a long time ago. I'm in my 50s, so it's been a while ago. I played as a teenager through high school, and then I didn't play for quite a while, and then, you know, I had a friend who I hooked up with for a while, and then we played some, and so it was kind of like on and off through the years, you know. And then when I was raising my kids, I played with them some, and then about 10 years ago, some people at work were like, "Oh, like we should start playing D&D again, and you DM before, you're the DM." I'm like, "Okay." So, and that was kind of, after we played a bit, that was kind of when I wanted to do terrain, because I was a war gamer and I like terrain. I like the visual aspect of terrain. And so I was like, okay, how can I bring terrain, you know, cheaply to the game? And that's when I started the whole craft thing. And yeah.
So I played my first ever D&D when I was 18 or 19. I just graduated high school. I moved across the state. I was working at Meyer, which is a regional store. Scotty's shaking his head. I know Scotty knows Meyer.
Yeah, I know Meyer.
It's pretty much exclusive to the Michigan, Indiana, Ohio area, being founded in West Michigan. But I don't know why Up My 3D was denied.
I don't know. That's a new insult.
Yeah.
Up your 3D.
Up My 3D. Sorry, chat moderation thing. Anyway, so I worked in the toy department, surprise, surprise, and became fast friends with our little core group of people. It was a brand new store that we kind of built from the ground up in terms of our department. And one of us bought Hero Quest. And so we started playing Hero Quest over at the one guy's house. And there came a point, and I'm sure this has been the gateway RPG for many people. We were playing a Hero Quest, and we're like, I want more. I want this to be more. I don't want it to be a board game. Similar to Megan's story, I don't want this to be a board game. I want to actually role play. And one of the guys said, let me introduce you to D&D. Now, we only played a couple of games. I don't remember even what my first character was from that game. And then I wound up moving back across the state, and then cut to a couple years later, I joined the Army. And while I was in the Army, I played a few games. And I actually got to play with this group. They invited me over for, I think, my very first time playing. We played over a 4-day weekend, and across that Wednesday night through Monday afternoon, we played roughly 36 hours, 40 hours of D&D. We had, I don't know how many pizzas. I used to smoke back in the day. I think I smoked about a carton of cigarettes. I was drunk and sober like 4 times during that period. And I played a battle mage named Harkonnen. I had just watched Dune. So, who went on to become the Emperor of the Land when we retired the character. And that was in 2nd edition AD&D. And then I played a little bit more during the Army, and then when I got out of the Army, I did not play D&D again for 16 years. I picked it up again at a friend's request who used to play through all of the editions. I'd never even heard of 3rd edition. And then I started playing 4th edition. He's like, I think you'd make a good DM. And I started playing that and was on the verge of starting to buy some of the books and stuff. I was borrowing them, and I learned that they were playtesting the new edition of D&D. Then it was called Next. So I jumped in on the ground floor of that, and I have not jumped out. I'm all in on 5th edition, and everything I've done, pretty much, Mini Terrain Domain exists because of 5th edition D&D. It's I think the game officially released in 2014 or 13. So it's been a good 6 or so years of going from not playing any D&D to I'm currently DMing or playing in 9 active campaigns right now. And I've got 2 guest streams that play D&D or RPGs on the channel in addition to that, with Megan and Connor running and producing the Spire game on Wednesday nights. It's the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month right here. And on every Friday night, I've got Alan from Check for Traps, CFT RPG, runs his Curse of Strahd game. So yeah, that's how long I've been playing. I want to give a shout out to EverJ in the chat. Jason is a really close friend of mine and Megan and Jeremy's. Was a part of our extended family from Absolute Tabletop. Check out the Absolute Tabletop official group on Facebook. That's where we met. But what I wanted to shout out there with EverJ, with Jason, is he often works late nights at his job, doing his job things, and he often watches our games. And not just our games, but games across the AbTab community while he's working. And I don't mean on his phone sitting to the side or on a corner of his monitor. They have a 40-inch television in their office mounted on the wall. And he's posted pictures before with the Dawnbringers, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, up on this big TV. And he doesn't, this is one of those, he doesn't try to hide the fact that he's watching this. It's just there for everybody when they come in to talk to Jason doing his job things about job stuff. They see that he's watching this RPG. So there's a lot of people getting some exposure when they come in to talk to Jason. So shout out to EverJ, who is also one of the earliest subscribers to the channel and is a longtime subscriber. You know what? We've had the Maharishi 66 resubbed for 4 months. Cajun Kevin just resubbed for 8 months. And I know this is a special Q&A episode, but you know what happens when people sub?
Yeah, we get
you guys get domain dice.
I was going to ask that. Do we still get domain dice?
Yeah, of course. We can't not award
Get the dice.
Okay,
domain dice.
I agree.
Well,
I agree.
I mean, you could, because we're technically not role playing, but in the spirit of the season, it could feel like stealing. So
Well, we can always just talk in our character voices, and then it feels like we are role playing.
Right. Well, actually, that's a great segue, V, because the question that I wanted to kind of ask to each of you is, what is, now I know not everybody does voices per se, so you can interpret this. I'm gonna frame this question in a couple different ways. When you run or you play games, what is your favorite or go-to either accent or mannerism or just type of character if you don't do voices and mannerism stuff? What is your go-to? And we're going to start with Ted this time.
I'm really gonna throw me to the wolves.
Yep.
I'm not huge on voices. I enjoy doing goblins, kobolds, gnomes, and I go into that higher register. I find it so hysterical. I played a kobold there was a kobold or a goblin, I forget which, but in V's game at the castle.
Vomit.
Vomit, yes.
That's a
and
story.
it's fun to just dial up into that register and have fun. And it's the only ones that I can get into and stay for any real length of time. Everything else just tends to wind up falling into my normal speaking voice, and I try and push it here or push it there. I did wind up crafting an NPC that was based off of Floki from the Vikings TV show. When I first started watching that, I saw his character going in a very different story arc, and I made an NPC based off of my interpretation of him. And I wound up spending time listening to that actor, getting into that speaking pattern, and I emulated that for a session and really did that. But I don't usually go too crazy with voices or accents.
I'm gonna roll a d4, and Megan, you're next.
I don't do voices either. I suck at them a lot. But I am known for a voice that I don't even do, which is this little girl voice, which I do with I have a program that changes my voice online, and I can make, and I usually in my horror games I make this very, very creepy little girl voice that I have used many times.
I can attest to that, having fallen victim to that little girl voice.
Well,
there's nothing like being trapped in space in a ship that the rooms are constantly changing on you, and all of a sudden you hear over the intercom a little girl's voice.
Well, you might not say Figs is a voice, but the way that you portray him, that the way you speak, the way he talks, I think it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
You try because sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because I can't do voices, I still try and change the mannerism in which I speak with my characters. Like if I can't change anything else, like if I can't change my accent, then I will change like the words that they use, how fast or slow they speak, that kind of thing, to make it as separate as possible.
Fig is a fun one. The way you portray Fig is a fun one when you're not here, to try and emulate your presentation of Fig. Like you've set that bar that, okay, this is what Fig sounds like, so I have to make Fig sound like that as well. Let's see. You already went, Megan. Does this dice only roll 3 or 2s? Jeremy.
I also only do little girl voices that are creepy.
Oh yeah, that explains a lot about Talmud.
We are creepy little girls. La, la,
Like a little voice that comes out and goes all creepy on you.
I've always done voices, even as a kid. I would imitate, characters or actors that I liked or that I saw in movies. And whenever I got into theater, I was not able to play the leading man role very often at all. So I very much kind of started gravitating towards being a character actor. I found that I enjoyed that a lot more. And it lends itself really, really well to role playing, especially if you're running games, because you have to switch gears so often to play so many different NPCs. And I find that a really fun challenge, to find a different voice, even if it's not a different accent, like Megan was saying, changing your cadence, your rhythm, your word choice, just the mannerisms that come across in your persona. I think doing that with a voice is a very, very powerful way to make an NPC feel different. It's just a lot of fun to kind of get into the, it's gonna sound wrong, to get into the mouth of an NPC and to kind of feel them out that way. So I also try accents. I'm horrible at most of them, but they're fun to try. So I like trying.
You do, having played for a number of months with you in the Momentum game, I found that, which is viewable along with all of his other games on Erasmus Expeditions on YouTube. We play the first Wednesday of every month.
Yeah.
You have this go-to voice that you use for male figures of authority. That tends to be a very deep, slow voice. I'm not quite capturing it, but you give it a little bit of the Slavic touch, and you slide into that deep way of speaking. And we know we're dealing with somebody that's in power.
Yeah. I tend to a lot of the people that are in power in my games tend to be assholes. They're usually very antagonistic.
I mean, that's real life.
Speaking of that, no, I'm just kidding. Now Scotty and V are like, who is he going to?
I was going to say, oh boy, that's going to be a doozy.
No, watch this save. I'll tell you what my go-to. No, I'm just kidding. Scotty, what's your go-to voice or mannerism or accent?
Yeah. I only have like certain voices. I'm not fantastic with the different voices. I have the gruff voice, I have the goblin voice, I have my effeminate up a little bit if I'm a woman, kind of voice, but I don't really have necessarily specific voices for specific characters except for that range. But what I like to do is I like to try to connect on like an emotional level, as opposed to like trying to do the voice, like get in the player's face, or just if I'm an annoying character, be like as annoying as possible. So they just, you know what I'm saying? Or if you're an asshole character, just like play it up to the T, like just make them, because in a role-playing game, you can actually hit the asshole. You know what I'm saying? So why not like just play mega asshole? And it's all that much sweeter when the characters finally get to smack this jerk down. It's just so fun. I love to taunt the characters, while the villains love to taunt the characters and belittle them. I actually had a really fun game where I was running a hobbit who befriended the characters. They rescued him, and he befriended the characters, and he became like a huge problem because the villain was making the players think that he was like double crossing them, and the character was such a blunder that there's no way he could possibly, but I like had them believe it, and he'd be like, and then when they would try to prove it, like he would say, oh, they captured me and chained me up and threw me in this pit, and he could never prove where it was, and they didn't believe it. I just was like stringing them along. How long can I have this group like keep this character around, or let him be around, or let them annoy them without killing him? And it finally got to the point where they were taking a vote literally to kill this character, and the character was totally innocent, like he hadn't done anything. It was the villain that was like utilizing this character to torment the players. So yeah, that's how I like to make memorable NPCs, is like really that visceral feeling of friend, foe, whatever feeling you want the players to have about the character, like just play it to the T. Just give them reinforcement after reinforcement of the character. If they're a jerk, just keep reinforcing that. If they're a friend, they come through at the times they're needed, or whatever, whatever character it is. So that's how I try to connect with the NPCs, is like opposed to the character voices.
Excellent. There's a reason I left me and V for last. V, I've learned in my time playing with you, not just in this game, but now in a couple other campaigns, and watching you on other things, you've got quite the repertoire of accents, and even within the same accent, you change your inflection, you change your tone for your different characters. Correct me if I'm wrong, your voices seem to be your primary way of magnifying and showcasing your character's personality.
Yeah, pretty much. It's every single character, be it PC or NPC, they're given personalities and quirks, likes, dislikes, mannerisms, and they're all unique in their own form, and they each have literally their own voice. I have a very crazy world in my head now, because of all of the different NPCs and the PCs that I play. And I jokingly with the kids one day just went through all my PCs and their different voices and personalities, and they were having a conversation. It was rather disturbing, but it worked. But yeah, definitely I use the various voices to help me stay, I guess, organized as to who's speaking at the moment. But no, I mean, the voices are, I'm gonna sound like a nut job. The voices are talking to me. But I mean, it's like well, like with Baby's place. Ted heard this. You had Baby has this very low grade voice, and she's a very drawn out Southern thing. And then you switch over to Evie, and she's got this very bright, chipper Southern accent that keeps going. But then you got Sebastian, who's like the bouncer, and he's very tough guy mode. But it helps me quick flip around to the different personalities, and automatically it's like, even like I notice my body posture will change. But it's the voices that help me keep who's who. And Cantriel is probably the strongest personality in the mix.
What? No,
not Cantriel.
I hadn't seen a lot with role playing with you outside of Dawnbringers. So to see you go from Cantriel to your character in the last RPG game, two vastly different accents. That was a bit of a shock.
I love my Pyro Kitty.
No, not the Pyro Kitty.
Oh, you mean the
Rogue Druid?
The Talia.
No,
She was the one who had the long drawn accent. Yes.
Well, I do want to say for anybody that's watching, you've seen, and I'll talk about mine in a moment, but a lot of different styles here. There is no right or wrong way to do it. You use what tools you have available. If you're not comfortable or haven't really done anything with accents, that's fine. Even if you just use your own voice, it does not matter. I don't want anybody to feel like we're saying this is how you need to do it. I think what you find, and what I find personally, because I relate to V very much in this respect, is that I've got a lot of voices in my head, and they need to get out once in a while. Mm-hmm. So D&D is the perfect outlet for that. I'm constantly playing around with characters. It's actually one of the last things I do when I create a character is I start workshopping on my own, usually while I'm driving, to figure out what that character's voice is based on, because I can't know their voice until I know who they are as a character. And sometimes, and this has happened more often than not, I have an idea in my head of what this character is going to sound like, and the first time I open my mouth, something completely different comes out, and that's who they are.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a long time to really settle in on what your character sounds like. If you're somebody that's playing around with accents or speech patterns, I don't remember how many sessions we're in on the Momentum campaign, Whispers and Fragments, but it's only within this last session that I decided that Katya, my young female teenager analog dwarf, didn't really need an accent. So I've slowly been phasing it out, because she started with this sort of Eastern European, almost German subtle accent. But for like 6 days into summer, he's a Tabaxi bard, and he's one that the only way I can do it is I have to sort of hold my head a slight way and turn my mouth a certain way, and then all of a sudden I can find out that I'm sounding like 6 days into summer. And you know what else I've discovered? In my worlds, all tabaxi sound like this. Every one of my tabaxi will have an accent like this, because apparently it's kind of like the Khajiit in Skyrim. But I have certain accents that I will go to. I tend to go to a sort of vague Eastern European accent for generalized characters, depending on the world. So a lot of time you may find that somebody you are talking to will have this kind of an accent. It's a not quite a specific region. And
I do a lot of vague British-ish accents for random characters.
Yeah, I like to, if you get somebody that is, it's almost like you can do somebody that's a little more streetwise, where I'll tend to put a little more of a Cockney spin on it without necessarily trying to do a Cockney accent. So if you run into somebody on the street, they're going to have a certain way of talking to you. They're clipping some of the words or whatever. Hey, you're looking for something? I think I know where you can find it. It's right here at the end of my fist. Dirty dwarves. Got to get a jab in on the dwarves. I've also found that when doing female characters, I soften my voice. I have a very deep voice, so
You do.
the only way for me to, I think, accurately present that you are talking to a woman is I just naturally soften my voice without going into a falsetto. And I find that a lot of my female characters have a slight Irish accent because I can soften it just a bit more. And I can turn that up or down to kind of give you a sense of like that tavern, the tavern owner that you ran into in the last session, that she's got that sort of an Irish lilt, but she's also got a no-nonsense way about her, where everything's said with a bit of confidence. Yeah, you go ahead, and you sit there, and you don't move until I tell you to. Now, what can I get for you? And then you can kind of play around. I play around with it depending on if they're, a more matronly or an older figure or younger. My older gentleman, that's maybe somebody that's either snooty or in charge, tends to have a bit more of an accent like this, a bit of a rolling R's, and of course some of my favorite accents are, when I get to play dragons, anything that lets me really play. Because all dragons, whether they're male or female, can talk in that same register. And a lot of times I'll just make something up on the fly. Thanks to Megan, I've got a new voice. Let's see if I can do it. I've got a new voice. I can't do it. I'm going to have to listen to it again.
It was a good voice.
It was a really good voice. No, I can't do it. It's this sort of strain. Just imagine Megan really sick and straining. I'm going to have to listen to it a few times.
It was so cute,
Megan,
though.
I'm going to have to save that audio clip just so that I can have that to
that was good.
reference when that character comes into play.
See,
I will throw out there, if you are, like myself, and you don't tend to do voices, but you want to, kind of add that air into it. You can describe, with this kind of accent, or with, getting into this kind of vocal range for an NPC that you're going to, use pretty often. You can describe that so that it becomes a contrast to what is normally being, spoken or being said, and just get into the descriptive aspect of it as opposed to
use your adjectives. And treat it almost like, if you're not able to do those accents, treat it like if you were reading it. The bar owner, a man of medium height, stocky build, rough hands, greets you in a voice that sounds like sandpaper drawn across glass. And right there, each person might hear that a little bit different in their head, but now you can just say, "What can I get for you?" without having to really dig into that accent. And you still paint that picture for your players.
Yep.
Um,
Or if you
Cage-
can do the voices, trying to figure out which voice to go with. I find like attributes or mannerisms sometimes lead me to the voice itself. Like for Baba Yaga in my campaign that I do over on Cobalt Press, she's not the usual like evil witchy voice. She has this very lispy way of speaking because she has the iron jaws that want to jump out every so often.
right.
So when I read that paragraph, that's what led me to the, well, she's not going to speak like she can speak clearly. She's going to speak like her dentures are about to pop out. And I started the affectation of the very, like, just got this little air sound to it when she speaks. And it's actually come in quite handy.
Yeah, and if voices are something you want to, you think you have you want to try it, watch games, watch cartoons, watch foreign television shows and stuff, or just search for accents, regional dialect videos. There's tons of professional and just regular people playing around with accents on YouTube. Somebody from our community, you might know as the DM of the All That Glitters campaign on Monday nights on YouTube here, Mike the Piper, has a series where on his YouTube channel, Mike the Piper, where he explores different types of accents. I think Mike does really well with accents. Particularly with a variety of European accents.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first met Lloyd Collins, who has appeared in he's in the Spire game on the twice a month Wednesday game, and he plays in our Momentum campaign over on Erasmus Expeditions. The author and creator of Iskloth, the Viking setting for 5e. He's from Ireland. He's from Dublin. And I asked him once when I first met him, do European players make all their characters sound like they have American accents? And of course, knowing Lloyd now, this makes perfect sense that he laughed at me when I asked that question. But it was just one of those things I wondered, if we're always trying to emulate Irish and European people, what are the Europeans doing with their accents? I just had this weird idea that all the Europeans had these weird, like, caricatured Southern accents and Northern accents from America. And maybe they're out there, and I would love to see that. Cajun Kevin has asked, do y'all generally prefer to play or DM? I like both, but I'm happiest when I'm DMing. I'm a storyteller by nature, and I would be perfectly comfortable if you told me, hey, we need to run a game. It's very short notice, and you're going to run it for 5 people you've never played with before. Oh, and by the way, you're going to do it on Satine Phoenix's channel this Sunday for Celebrity Chair D&D fundraiser for the remind me of the charity. It's
Some reading one.
It's Reach Out, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And I say that not just as an example, but that happened this week. I was asked to DM this Sunday a custom adventure in the Eberron setting, written by Keith Baker, the creator of the Eberron setting. And I'm perfectly comfortable doing that. I'm being given the adventure, but even if I wasn't, I could very happily just grab a note card and some dice and say, all right, let's play. We're going to play for 2 hours. Let's have some fun. What about you, Megan? What's your preferred way to play? Or rather, your preferred... Sorry, I keep wanting to say this and it sounds inappropriate. What's your preferred position? What is your... Which hat do you prefer to wear? There you go.
There you go. That's a safe one.
I play for the most part because DMing is scary. So, yeah.
Acknowledging and respecting that you have real, genuine anxiety and fear when you DM, you always knock it out of the park. I've played under your games many times in a variety of settings, usually horror, and I play every other Tuesday in your Curse of Strahd game, which Jeremy has guested on, and we have a wonderful cast of characters over there, or players, and characters. you do a phenomenal job. You take Curse of Strahd and you make it your own. I think you described it recently as I picked up the book, flipped through it, got some ideas, and now I'm running it from what I want to do, kind of thing. So you do phenomenal when you do DM. V, which hat do you prefer?
I consider it the same hat. One is just more scoped. Because for me, like as a DM, I feel like I am a player too. So it's just I have more characters to play out when I'm DMing. It is kind of how I look at it, especially with the types of games that I play, because I love role play, as do luckily my players. So oftentimes it's like I don't feel like the game is being run by the DM. I feel like the game is being created by the whole group instead.
That's an important distinction too, that a lot of people, I think, unintentionally, but a lot of people miss, is that the DM is also a player. So many people forget that the DM is playing in the game too. My favorite sessions are usually the ones, besides the ones in which the characters just get a phenomenal victory, or I'm going to be honest, sometimes a devastating defeat. But some of my favorites are when I forget everything that's written down or the module, and I just get to play as this NPC as we have an interaction with one another. Because you just slip into that. And actually, one of the first and best times that ever happened was in a game I ran a few years ago that Bill Wylock was a player in. And it was sort of an investigative game. And they literally were supposed to go into this bookshop for about, in real time, they should have only been there for like 5 minutes. We spent almost an hour with them investigating, exploring. Everything was improvised, and I inhabited the role of this bookkeeper because I had to be able to answer all of their questions in character. And it was the most fun for me. I mean, this was like 4 years ago, and I still remember it so vividly because it was an experience I got to do as running the game, but I got to also be this character. And I get that so many times in all of the games that I run. Thank you, Spike, for the, 4 months of subscription, 4 months in a row. And of course, that earns another domain die.
Yay!
Scotty, what's your preferred hat?
Sorry, I had to get my mic on. I'd probably say DMing. But I love playing too, and I don't get to play as much as I'd like because I don't know a lot of other DMs. Also, I've played in horrible games. I mean, I know we all have our own GM style, but there is good DMs, and bad DMs. And that's not dependent on style. That's dependent on whether you just bad or not. But for me, it's like a different frame of mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm playing in a game as a character, I'm thinking about the character and how the character will interact with the group in the story, right? Where if you've got your DM hat on, at least I'm in a different frame of mind because I'm thinking about not only, the encounters, making the encounters fun, but like all the NPCs, the pace of the story. There's so many things, all the stats of all the monsters, mechanics of the game. There's so many things that you're thinking about that it's kind of like, for me, it's like hyper focus. Like I go into like hyper focus mode because there's so many things that are going on. And like you said, Jake, like the players decided they wanted to stay in the bookshop. Like, you've got to be ready at a moment's notice to alter, the game. It's about the characters. You got to alter the game depending on the characters. You want to do that as a game master. So you got to be prepared. There's no way you can really be prepared for that. You just have to be open to that, I think. Don't try to, if the players are not following the plot is exactly as you want, don't try to railroad them into it. Let them discover it how they discover it, and then you can adjust things to fit. So I'm in that frame of mind when I'm game mastering. But when I'm playing, I'm just like it's a lot less that I'm thinking about in the game, because I'm thinking about my character interacting with everybody else in the story. And so I guess I'm not thinking of it so much in metagame. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a DM, you're kind of thinking about it in metagame because there's so many hats that you're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
You got the stats, you got the pace, you got the story itself, everything going on that you're trying to juggle all at once. Where as a character, you're not. So yeah, it's for me, it's just a different kind of frame of mind.
Yeah.
When I'm I think that's really the distinction.
And I was going like this because you were talking about, your characters don't always go where you want them to, or I should say about this group here, you go where you want to go, and you're going to do what you're going to do. And it's one of the reasons why I actually don't prep that much. I make sure I know what's in the area, and I'm prepared, because, just a couple sessions ago, I had thought of 2 or 3 possibilities of what you guys would do, and Jeremy and Megan decided, nope, we're going to go find somebody who's a very skilled thief. And we now have in our world on the Sharks, I think it's called the Sharks Fins Bridge, in the buildings along there, we have a thief called the Raven who has a milky white eye along with his raven, and has helped to unlock some of Fig's memory and literally unlock Fig's face. And that session, that entire scene, was 100% improvised on the spot, because I could not have planned for that eventuality.
Oh no, you couldn't have, and that's what a good DM
and I had to
does.
be prepared to do that kind of a thing. And it's fortunately for me, I think it's one of my skills, is being able to improvise on the fly like that and make things fit within the world. But it also comes from trust with my players. And the other thing I wanted to touch on that you said before we go to somebody else answering, is the concept of railroading, and the phrase you used is, if your players aren't going where you want them to go. I have always, it's kind of weird too, coming into D&D so late as I did, relatively speaking, that I just developed this sort of philosophy that even in these pre-printed modules, you can move things around. If you need your players, if the next piece of information that they need is in a certain location and it's to the east and they go west, that information is now available to the west.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Just think of it like in modules, like in blocks, instead of like a linear path. Like, just have the chunks, and however they find them, however they discover them, however they manipulate them, that's fine.
In our Tomb of Annihilation game, I constantly moved things around because I thought, hey, this would make a cool encounter. And they're wandering through the jungle. Oh, okay, guess what? This airship wreck is now a mile away from them, and they're heading right for it.
Yeah, it's
Right,
actually it's like
right,
an old
right.
It's an old creative writing thing that I used to do with my students. They'd get 5 elements, break them into groups. They have to include those 5 elements into their story. You'd get, 5 to 6 different stories, but all those elements were in that story, still put to use.
Yeah.
I've always kind of thought about it as different beads. Like, you as the dungeon master or the storyteller or whatever, you create the different beads, but your party is who decides how they get strung together and what
That's
order.
a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that.
Great analogy.
I could have used that 12 years ago.
Jeremy, building
Yes.
off of that analogy, what is your preferred mode of play?
Pain in the ass. No, I'm kidding.
Very true.
Was that V or Cantriel talking?
Fair.
Little blending of the both.
I honestly enjoy both of them for different reasons. I am a storyteller at heart. I really like creating worlds and settings and storylines and things of that nature. So I have to run games. I kind of go crazy if I don't. But I also can't not play. If I'm running a game and I've not been able to play, I also get kind of stir crazy. And especially in an ongoing campaign, like I need a steady character that I can go back to repeatedly. That's one of the things that I don't get the opportunity to do a lot as a DM, is to have a reoccurring NPC. But I think for me, it's also important for everybody to do both, at least once. Like, nothing is going to make you a better dungeon master than to be a player, and nothing is going to make you be a better player than to be a dungeon master.
Very true.
They're going to teach you. Most importantly, they're going to teach you what aspects that you don't want to replicate at the table. Because
Right.
as a DM, you'll have players and they'll do something you go, ooh, that really kind of pisses me off. I'm not going to do that anymore as a player, and vice versa. You're going to craft your best GMing skills by playing under other GMs and learning tactics from them.
My two favorite people to DM for are brand new players that are excited to enter the world of D&D and forever DMs. Because I like to give them an opportunity to play the characters that they want to play and not put any restrictions. Usually my games tend to be very open with very little restrictions, and give you a chance to play that character you always wanted to play. Those, like I said, those are my two favorite to address. And I will also attest to Jeremy's incredible storytelling ability playing in his monthly campaign, any world that he created and that he has run multiple games in besides ours in the world of Momentum. But also he has other worlds that he runs, that he creates these unique worlds. He has this ongoing campaign called Beneath the Banner Shadow, I believe, which is sort of a, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a more of a kind of a king builders type campaign.
Not so much. It takes place in kind of like the main homebrew world that I have, the one that I've been working on for the longest, and it takes place in one of the kingdoms, which is modeled on kind of Arthurian legend and like English and Germanic history and folklore. So yeah, it's all about that particular group of characters basically trying to reforge the Excalibur analog that's been lost.
And another great setting that he has is something called Caldera, which is really important to note because tomorrow night on Erasmus Expeditions, Megan and I will be playing along with Barker from Absolute Tabletop, Myth and Gears, Karen, who's on a couple of our games here and is in our chat now. And I'm missing somebody. Who else is in that?
Jason Osorio.
And Jason Osorio, who is in Brain Cramp.
One of the Strahd games? I think he's in one of the Strahd games with you guys.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he's only one of my co-players, and my character is only starting to have a romantic relationship with him.
I was just going to say, aren't your characters...
Our characters are starting to develop a romantic relationship. I had a total
Jason,
brain cramp.
I love you. Jake may not, but I love you, Jason.
Oh, boy. I'm sorry, Jason. But yeah, so it's gonna be really fun. We're playing this sort of Western themed horror Christmas special. So we put all those together. This is gonna be a blast. Ted, I believe you are the only one I haven't asked this question of. Which hat do you prefer to wear when you're not wearing your elven hat? Elfin hat.
So I kind of fall on the same lines as Jeremy. I I really do enjoy both, from the storytellers aspects, and getting into the creativity of a world and a story. I also like creating things mechanically. In my own home games, I love homebrew monsters, homebrew magic items, and I use those more than anything else that I'll have on the bookshelf behind me. Um, to me, there's something about when I game with veterans, or veterans, I should say. I'm used to being running for people who know the mechanics, possibly even more than myself. So it's a lot more enjoyable for me to be like, you know what, they're not going to know what this monster is if I've created it myself. It's my stat block. They can't know what it is. So that to me is far more enjoyable. But on the other side, it is incredibly stressful to run a game. I always second guess myself. I always worry, like, oh, did I do good enough? Are the players having fun? I'm a worrier. It's unfortunately who I am, and
That's normal. It happens to everybody that I know.
Yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah,
A lot.
yeah. We can all relate. We can all relate to that.
so when I'm behind the screen, it is entirely a gurring moment. Um, and when I'm a player, I don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to interact with whatever the DM has got going on, interact with the other players, and have a grand and glorious time. And it was the stress of I'm running 90 plus% of games when Jake and I had that conversation, and he's like, well, we can put you in this game here, and life has gotten less stressful now that I have this new family to come and play with every single week. So I could never make the decision of, if you can only do one, what would it be?
Nope. Don't make me. Nope.
Yeah, right there says it
Nope.
exactly. So I enjoy both, and I could not make that decision.
Well, I want to touch on a couple of comments and questions in the chat. Another shout out, just to everybody in the chat, really, but Spike has been a recent addition within the last at least 4 months by his subscriptions, but also pops into the Mini Terrain Domain Facebook page from time to time with some fun fan Photoshop compositions of the characters of the Dawnbringers, with a particular emphasis on the dwarves, and has been very generous with bits and donations and even subscriptions gifting to the audience, and is personally responsible for many of these domain dice above my head. So thank you, Spike. But I also want to shout out Karen, Myth and Gears. I play together with her in a couple of different games, some one-shots, a couple of campaigns. She recently joined our Cult of Personality campaign on Sunday nights. But Karen is a person that you would be hard-pressed to find. If you go to any chat of games, whatever the main game that's coming out of our community primarily coming from the Absolute Tabletop group, you go into the chat and you're going to see Myth and Gears is in that chat, supporting and laughing and hanging out. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Karen, that just seeing her there in the chat all the time is awesome. And it's even more fun when you get to play with Karen, because she's awesome.
Yes.
And if you check out our Cult of Personality game, it's Karen and Connor and Megan, all in the same family, and then Mike. So I'm the only American in our Sunday night games now. It's all Canadians. It's an all Canadian cast. The other thing, there's been a couple comments, I think mostly from Spike, about I'll get to that one in a minute.
I was gonna say, did you see that one?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. So the question was, where are we going to see the Dawnbringers go next? Well, Saltmarsh we're gonna stick around in Saltmarsh for a little while. There's a few threads that have been put out, and we'll see what the characters follow and how long they want to stick here. And if anything compels them to either go somewhere else or go back home across the sea. That said, there are I can't really say where we would go specifically, because I tend to wait until I see where they want to go and then find the appropriate setting that'll work with that or module. But that said, I actually have threads that have been placed since the very first session that, if they are followed to their conclusion, will not resolve until the players are at least level 18. I've been planning for that far, for that eventuality. But there's also some mid-level stuff. You guys just hit level 8.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still some. They're not quite mid-level yet, and there's some mid-level stuff I want to do. And a lot of it has to do with the fate of the characters, because if somebody dies, their thread is snipped, potentially. So,
and since we hit level 8, we haven't seen combat yet. So, not that I'm complaining, I'm stating a fact.
Well, when we pick up the next session, you are in a bar, so you can fix that.
Yes, but the bar combat is not what I need, because I can't rage in a bar.
One of the other comments Spike made had to do with, hopefully we'll get to see some ship-to-ship combat. And more than once, there has been hints dropped about some sort of vessel, supposedly all crewed by automatons, called, who can tell me the name of the vessel?
Dreadnought.
The Dreadnought. And it seems to be always whenever people see Fig that they recall stories of this vessel. So, and so, yeah, we'll definitely be seeing some ship-to-ship combat at some point. And don't worry, Ted, I've got plans.
Oh,
you will not be disappointed.
I was teasing, that is one of the things that I love about this group is we don't need combat to fill time and to keep things going. And I've been in so many groups where combat is the majority of the game. And again, we work so well off of each other. You're a great GM who's got the ability to improv in whatever direction we wind up going. So it's just great. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form pushing for I need combat now. It's just the entire character mechanically was to get to the point where I can rage and smite. So
I'm just pushing for a situation like the Ghostbusters. What did you do? What did you do, Ray? What were you thinking about?
Across the streams.
So a comment was dropped that got me and V laughing.
Yeah.
From what you're looking at. When is Clicks and Classrooms games? When is the Clicks and Classrooms games? Which is probably brand new to everybody else but the two of us.
Yep. That was a beautiful brainchild.
That just sort of happened. And I'm glad I popped in when I did. I popped in near the end of V's one of V's weekly live crafting streams that she does on the Crafting Muse on Wednesdays at noon Eastern. And I just popped in near the end of my lunch break, and I think I was in there for like 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And somehow the I think it was actually because what you're looking at made the comment that the ogre that you were painting, that the battering ram looked like a mag flashlight.
Yes, with the tripod option.
And then that sort of spun off into this whole idea that the whole chat kind of worked on together.
It was beautiful.
That the idea was we were basically casting what type of monsters would make up the different cliques in the school, who would be the principal, who would be the teachers. So imagine a sort of D&D Monster High. And I think I'm the one that came up with the name Clicks and Classrooms.
Yes. And we have a beholder for the principal, a drow for the vice principal.
Oh, who was the gym teacher?
Cube for the evening janitors.
The Coven of Hags were the
lunch ladies. We had the clique issues between the elves and the dwarves.
Yep.
The music teacher was a siren.
with Banshees.
With Banshees as like the delinquent students for that class. Like they just kept adding more and
Well, and the
more
wonderful
more
thing
into
was
it.
near the end of that, I said somebody should do a transcription of this video and put it in a Google Doc, and not a half hour later, I get a message from on Discord from What You Looking At, and he had done just that. So thank you to What You Looking At for that.
Yes.
So sometime in early 2020, V and I are going to coordinate. I kind of want V to DM this, but I think she wants to play in it.
I'm kind of already, well, I'm doing the Margrave right now, which is basically a whole bunch of monsters screwing with it. So it's sort of
A whole bunch of what?
It's a whole bunch of monsters screwing with the players.
Oh, I missed the with the players part.
Screwing the players, yes.
I just heard a whole bunch of monsters screwing and was wondering, what the heck kind of game are you running?
Well, it is the Margrave.
So, stay tuned for that. I think that would be a lot of fun. To even set it up as just this sort of mini setting to run some one shots in once in a while.
Well, it could be a cool charity stream where you have
that would
a bunch of DMs carrying through the different concepts.
Yeah, that would be very, very fun. So yeah, that's just something we're gonna play around with, and I like the idea of it being a charity game because it was this sort of social construct that happened within the chat, and I wouldn't want to claim any kind of ownership over this thing that was kind of
it was
so
totally
crowdsourced created.
Yeah,
so
that was the Muselings. They were off and running. It was a riot. I loved it.
So the one of the questions, Jeremy, you popped it in here, was from What You're Looking At. I think this is a fun question. What's a skill you wish you could steal from someone in this game? Presumably, I think he means the characters, but I'm actually going to answer that with a mix of both the character and the player. Is V/Cantriel's ability to sing. I have many talents, and singing is not one of them. I cannot carry a tune. I can hear a song, sing along with it, and be horribly off key. And the second the song is turned off, I will forget all of the lyrics and the tune. Yeah, when I used to sing in church, they say within church, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. But even God was like, no, shh, that's not necessary. Yeah, I do not have any musical ability whatsoever. I can appreciate it, but I can't perform it. And every once in a while, it's something I wish I could do. So that would be the skill that I would steal if I could. And what I'm going to do for this one is I'll pick somebody and then you pick the next person. So I'm going to throw it over to Megan.
Oh no, I need to think. I was actually going to also say V/Cantriel, for just her ability to have just the best comebacks, just the wittiest, best comebacks ever. I could never think of anything like that in a million years. So.
That's definitely growing up in an Italian family. I will say that right now.
Is that your answer?
Yes, that is my answer. And I am going to pick Jeremy.
So it might be a little bit of a cop-out, but I'm actually going to say Jake and or Megan, because your tech knowledge, how to do all of the stuff behind the scenes, is something that I struggle with on a consistent basis with my games. And
we got your back.
Yes, thankfully. Thankfully, I can contact either one of you or both of you. And usually with that, plus tutorials I find online, I can usually figure it out. But it takes a lot of trial and error. So I wish that it was a talent of mine. That's for sure.
All right, who are you tagging?
Let's go, Scotty.
All right. You guys didn't pick a skill from your characters. Were you supposed to do that too?
From whoever, character or person. I chose
okay.
a little bit of, Megan and I both
Okay.
chose a little bit of both with V.
Yeah. Jake, I would have to say that I'm very jealous of your ability to do accents. And I would love to have that. I don't have that ability, but I would love to have it. I think it's fantastic, and I do think it adds to the game. I really do, and I appreciate all the work you put into it. And you've told us that you rehearse these and you do it in the car and all this kind of stuff. And I appreciate all the work you put in making a great game for us. But I think if I had like a character skill from one of our characters, I would have to say probably like laying on hands. That's a pretty awesome ability to just like heal people. I mean, that'd be pretty amazing.
Griveth just wants an excuse to touch Cantriel. Admit it.
Are you feeling ill today?
Cantriel, how are you feeling
hearty
today?
And pale. Thank you very much.
You look
There's
a little
reason
pale.
I have cure wounds on demand for myself.
No, thank you. I'll touch myself. That's not what I meant.
Oh boy, let's get out of control.
Well, actually, for her, she may like use that double entendre to her benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Scotty, there is only one person left for you to tag.
Okay, it's Ted.
So, from both V and Jake, you guys do phenomenal voices. So I know that's something that I, as a DM, that is a skill set that I would love to have and be able to slip into as easily as you guys transition from character to character, and then pretty much from all of you guys are crafters, and my crafting skills are much lower on the totem pole. I'm trying to do more with the current game that I'm running. My players have kind of challenged me to oh well, you did something once, well now you have to do this every time. So I'm trying to increase my painting skills, increase my crafting skills. So from the lot of you, I want as much knowledge as I can possibly get. So yeah, that's what I would steal from the people as individuals. From what I would take from characters, either from Cantriel or Fig, having access to magic in this very mundane world that we live in, I would love it. I would love to just be like, yep, I can do this. Even some of just the basic cantrips, could be just amazing in this world. Like, yeah, it's all the way over there, but I could mage hand and bring it right to me, whatever. I think I love magic. I think it's amazing, and wish we had access to it.
All right. We are just coming up on the 2-hour mark. And we're going to start wrapping up here. It's not a hard stop, but we're going to start leaning into that within the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. What I would like to do is, and I say 10 to 15 minutes because I think this last question is going to possibly take a little bit longer, but I would like to just remind you all, first of all, thank you to everybody who has tuned in. If you're watching the VOD of this, thank you for just being a part of the show, whether we know you're there or not. I know for a fact that there are people lurking in the chat that lurk every week or most weeks, and that is okay. You never have to feel anything but a part of this community if you're just there watching and you never speak up in chat, because that's fine. And I'll never call you out. If you haven't actively spoken in chat, I will never call you out as a lurker. But hey, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But we appreciate you all the same. And we really do. Whether you give to the channel through subscriptions and bits and donations or not, just being in the chat seeing it just warms my heart to be running a game, look over and see chat just flying by, and you guys are just having your own conversation while the game's going on. That's awesome. That's a community. That's phenomenal, and I love that you spend your time here and sit here and are also talking to other people in this extended community and family. I want to let you know, in case you don't know, though we talk about it all the time, and I've mentioned several during this show, that there are a number of shows available right here on Mini Terrain Domain. You can tune in on Sunday nights at 8:30 Eastern to catch Jolts of Personality with myself, Megan, Karen, Connor, and Mike. That game has completed 56 sessions over just over 2 years, and we are in the very last end game portion over the next several sessions of that Tomb of Annihilation campaign, and it has been awesome to see these characters and players grow. The challenges and things get deadlier and deadlier. They themselves only not too recently, or not too long ago, leveled up to 11. So Connor will be bugging me to level to 12 anytime. On Monday nights, we have our All That Glitters Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign that's been going on for roughly 25, 26 sessions, I believe. Or has it been going on longer than that? Are we up to... No, are we up to 30?
I think we're still in the 20s, but
Okay.
I'm not sure.
That one... I know is nearing the end of the Waterdeep Dragon Heist portion, but we have every intention of coming back at it with Dungeon of the Mad Mage. And that's also with Megan. Mike the Piper's the DM. I'm a player. That's where I play my bard 6 days until summer. V was, for a while, was a player in that, but has her shoes have been filled by another wonderful player in Cassie, who is known as Porch Pottery Florida. She has her own thing she does with magnificent handcrafted pottery that she does. I was looking to see if my coffee mug was out here that she made. And Dwight, my friend Dwight, is a part of that. Every other Tuesday, I'm over on the Dice on Ice channel for Curse of Strahd, DM'd by Megan, with Connor, Jason, Karen, and myself as players. Jeremy once guest starred on that. And we've had a few other players come and go on that as well. Also, every other Tuesday, returning in January, is the new campaign, Legends and Legacies, Tales of Phandelver. Karen is a player in that, along with some other amazing role players. Mike Mers, who's a friend of mine in real life. Well, everybody's friends of mine in real life. I just mean I actually know him. I know. How do you say that these days? He lives like 30 minutes from me. We play games in real life together a lot. Good Lord. Anyway, you know what I mean. Todd Silvar from Warlords Crusade does some amazing handcrafted leathers. My bag is not accessible either. That I have from him, but let's see. Yvonne is a part of that game, and Brian from Initiative Coffee Company is also a part of that game as well. Yvonne, Karen, Brian, Mike. Oh no. I'm gonna forget somebody, and it's gonna be horrible, and it makes me feel bad. But that is every other Tuesday when we're not doing the game with I said everybody. Todd, Brian, Karen, Mike, and Yvonne. There we go. When we're not playing Curse of Strahd, we're playing that here on Mini Terrain Domain. The second and fourth Wednesday of every month is Spire the City Must Fall, DM'd by Connor and produced by Megan. That is a guest stream. Lloyd Collins, Philip Maddie, and Jeff Doty
Actually, Philip Maddie is no longer in it, but we do have a new player, the fantastic Baron Cantriel.
Oh, that is phenomenal. Baron is one of my Michigan friends. Baron lives not that far from me here in Michigan, though we have never gotten together in Michigan. We had to travel all the way across the country to Tacoma to meet for the first time. But we vowed to get together in the new year. Baron is a phenomenal role player as well, so you guys are lucky to have him in that game. One Wednesday a month, I can be found over on Erasmus Expeditions in the Momentum Whispers and Fragments campaign from Jeremy as the GM, and with players Lloyd Collins. We've got Jeff Doty in that, myself, Austin Anderson, and we have Alan from Check for Traps is also a player in that. And some of the most intense character development role play that I've ever experienced has been in that campaign. Jeremy has literally had to sit back for over 90 minutes while the characters moved through conversations and developed themselves, and not always in good ways. We're playing these characters in very real ways, and there's a lot of inter-character conflict. It's a masterclass in how to have characters conflict with one another while still working together. So that is a phenomenal game. On Thursday nights, of course, every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, this is where you want to be for the Dawnbringers campaign, returning in January. Of course, I don't need to say it, but here they are. The amazing DM Scotty from the theDMsCraft, Megan from Dice on Ice, Ted from Nerdarchy, Jeremy from Erasmus Expeditions, V from the Crafting Muse. And on Friday nights, one Friday a month, I can be found along with V and Ted over on the Nerdarchy channel. I produce the stream over there. Ted DMs. We have myself, V, Megan, Asa, and occasionally Mike Fragginator, when his work schedule allows, shows up there as well. And we're in our 4th season of the RPG Crate game. It's the 2nd season that V has been with us. And for whatever reason, this season, it feels like we finally sort of fine-tuned the dial on everything. And there's just this amazing chemistry happen. Not that we didn't have chemistry, but it's been an interesting thing just because of the dynamic of running a sponsored stream with pre-published material that Ted does amazing with.
Thank you.
On Saturday, nothing happens here. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to Fridays. Every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Mini Terrain Domain, is CFT RPG presents Curse of Strahd, DM'd by Alan from CFT RPG, with players Sam DiMercurio, Lionel, Tamiko, who is the 4th player? Chad Nick, wonderful friend of ours as well. And they are just that is an incredible game as well. If you could actually watch that Curse of Strahd and the one that Megan runs, and you would see 2 entirely different presentations of the same material. And again, Saturdays, nothing really happens. But coming up in the new year on Fridays at 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern, because I'm not stepping on my friend Alan on his stream, I will be running on YouTube, not here on Twitch, but on YouTube, a live crafting stream. For 2 hours, I will be working on whatever project it is I'm working on. We will be painting miniatures. I will be making dice towers. I will be making brand new terrain, scatter, big builds, whatever, every Friday night for 2 hours. Except when I can't, because, life happens. But, and that will lead into, then at 10 p.m. Eastern, the stream from Check for Traps. And then this Sunday happening, I believe, stay tuned to at MTD_Jake on Twitter for the latest announcements. That's my Twitter handle. this Sunday at, I believe, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, I will be running a custom adventure written by Keith Baker, the creator of Eberron, set in Eberron, for Satine Phoenix's 9th annual Celebrity Chair Celebrity Chair D20 event, benefiting, I still can't remember, Reach Out and Read, I think it's called, but is a literacy program for children that's been around for about 30 years. Somebody had a link to it. Reach Out and Read is what it's called. Excuse me, I think in the chat somewhere, Fellowship posted a link to that Twitter thread as well. And one of my players is going to be Fenway, the Teen DM, who is the founder of Jasper's Game Day, one of our partners, as you look down in the lower left corner below Megan there. So I'm very excited to be able to present that this Sunday. But that brings us full circle all the way around to everything that's going on every week. Every one of these wonderful players, I'm going to give them an opportunity. After they answer this question, I want you to tell us where we can find you. We're going to use this question to sort of lead into our outro. It's going to be a long outro, longish. But just kind of give us a snapshot rather than an essay in answer to this question. No, I wasn't looking at you, Scotty. But answer the question and then tell us where we can find you on social medias, what you got coming up, any of that kind of stuff. Promote yourself as a way of heading out of here for the night. So I'm going to start with Jeremy. What is your favorite role-playing game memory?
That's a very, very difficult question to answer. I have a lot, but some of them are really kind of endearing, funny memories, more about kind of the meta that was happening at the table. And others are like in character moments that are more serious or somber. So I can think of an example for each. So I guess I'll just touch on each one of those just briefly. One of them was, I was playing a character who was he was a half orc, so very dismissed by the society he grew up in. He followed his brother around a lot, and he ended up meeting this woman that he fell in love with, and come to find out that the place where he met her was in like a dream realm. So whenever they got together, they decided they were going to stay together. And in her trying to leave the dream realm, she was kind of undone from existence. So it was kind of this crushing moment for the character. And it was just me and one other player and the guy running the game. And we got through that scene, and all three of us were like welled up with tears, and the emotion was really high in the room. So we all just kind of looked at each other and were like, okay, like let's take a moment and kind of regather ourselves a bit. And we'll move on from there. So that was a really good emotional moment of good role playing. And comedy-wise, I was running a game with zombies in it, and two people at my house were playing, and they were in a room. They were by themselves, and there was shadows passing through the doorways and things of that nature. And so I started lowering my voice, speaking quieter, calmer. And one of them was going to investigate the open door. And the moment that he got to it and pushed it open, I raised my voice, started screaming, I need you to roll for initiative. And his eyes grew like 3 times their normal size. He grabbed a hold of the table and rocked his chair back so far that he almost fell over. And he goes, "Jeremy, what are you doing?" I laughed so hard I almost peed my pants. So that was another great moment.
I scared Karen in our Halloween one shot. So
I saw the clip
there's a clip of that moment that that wasn't in our Halloween, that was in our Chult game. because they had traversed through time to the same location where previously there had been zombies. So it was another zombie thing. And she decided to go look in the window. And I said, you walk up to the window and you look in. And as you're peering in the window, and she jumped and she just like literally went like, oh. You go to on Twitch here after the stream, go to the clip section and it's in there. All right, Jeremy, what do you got going on and where can we find you?
So mainly I just run a bunch of games and play in a bunch of games online. I have the YouTube channel, the Erasmus Expeditions, and I have 2 monthly games that I run there. Beneath the Banner Shadow and Whispers and Fragments. We talked about both. Both of those are D&D. And then I have a series called Help Action, where I have people on and conduct interviews. Most everybody here, except for Ted, has actually been on there already. Ted,
Gotta fix that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never been asked, so
yep. I am looking for the right topic. I think I've got it, but I want to make sure before I ask you. But yes, that's a lot of fun to do. It's kind of getting to know people, similar to kind of what we've been doing tonight. It's kind of an interview topic discussion. So, and then I usually try to run a one-shot once a month. It just depends on kind of what I'm feeling in the moment. I run different settings, different systems. So tomorrow night is the one for this month, and that's going to be the one you mentioned, set in Caldera, which is a fantasy Western setting of mine. And it's going to be a holiday horror slasher story in a fantasy Western world. So I'm really excited for that. And then in January, I've got another one coming up that is actually in a buddy of mine named Jeff Doty has a setting system that he's working on called Glyph. And I'm going to be running a one-shot that I'm very excited for.
And so, Jeff's playing in that, right?
He is, yes. Jeff, Tim Carney, Baron Cantriel, Chad Nick, and Alan Holloway.
Fantastic cast. Definitely going to want to check that one out.
Yeah, it's supposed to be super comic book, kind of Sin City, kind of an aesthetic to it. So it's going to be very different and strange, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool. All right, Jeremy, who you want to throw it to?
Let's go with Micken.
What? I thought you said Micken.
Micken, it's your turn.
What? Who?
Micken.
All right. So, yeah, my D&D moment, a funny one that happened, and this one happened fairly recently. I was playing in a game with Locrius. He was running it, and it was a Indian inspired game. It was a lot of fun. We were trying to kill a Rakshasa, which was very cool. We were like level 1 billion. We were like level 20, super high level, and the Rakshasa was able to cast, I think it was, I forget the spell, but it like makes it so that they can mind control your character and like tell you what to do.
I think it's Gaius.
Yeah, there it is. And so the Rakshasa had casted that on my character, and my character started trying to attack the other players. Now, I think that how the spell worked was if you take damage, you get to re-roll and see if you can kind of break your control out of this mind control thing. So I was playing with Marquise, and he's like, all right, well, I'm just going to tap Megan's character just so that, we can try and save her and bring her back. What ended up happening was he had a Vorpal sword, and he scored a crit.
Oh, no.
And instead of getting me out of my mind control, he decapitated my character.
Oh, man.
So that really sucked. He was like, oh, I'm just gonna, Oh no.
Oh, man, and that was a Locrius game, which means it wasn't recorded, right?
No, it wasn't, but oh my god, that was
That's
it was,
incredible.
oh my, yeah. Yeah, so that has to be a very, but I've had tons of moments. There are tons of things. I like spending time with people and them making me laugh and cry, and I think those are the best moments, is just having a real connection with people, and being able to relate to each other, and just to form this, I would say, a very, very special bond through this. So that is my favorite.
That is the true answer to the question given to Conan of what is good in life. What do you got going on, Megan? Where can we find you?
Well, I am on the Dice on Ice YouTube channel, where I run Curse of Strahd. This coming new year, we also have some other videos in the works coming up that will hopefully get to be published. Yeah, and sometimes I'm on Twitter, and sometimes I tweet things. But mostly I'm on here, so I mean,
That's true.
If you really want to find me, I'm on this channel.
I was a little sad when you couldn't play in the Legends and Legacies campaign, because I was going for a full house.
I know, it feels so weird.
It's the only... Actually, that and Alan's Curse of Strahd game are the only two streams on my channel that you are not a part of. Because of your Spire game, and then the other games that you play in on here, so... All right, Megan, who are you going to throw it to?
I will throw it to Ted.
All right, so I've been thinking about this one for a while, and I actually ran into an old college friend while I was at PAX Unplugged this past weekend, and it really sparked, the memory banks about something that I felt was truly awesome and unique. And therefore, while it was not an individual moment, it was the first time I ran a story to completion, but it wasn't a typical D&D game. One of my favorite novel series was the set in Dark Sun, which if you're familiar with that, you've got the main character and something happened to him in his past, and he has got a whole bunch of personalities in his head. So I was in love with that game, with that book series so much that I wanted to run a game in that exact light. So I contacted, some of my friends and said, hey, I got this idea for a game. It's going to be very, exploration and role play heavy. We're not going to get into the mechanics of like rolling dice to determine how the combat flows. We're just going to use the D20 to kind of deal with success or failure and go from there. And then I surprised my one, my best friend at that point in time. And I'm like, all right, Jim, the party needs a fighter. I know you like playing fighters. Are you willing to be in this game? He said, sure. So when the game started, we started off with him, and then everybody else started chiming in, and they were just a voice in his head. And they all had their own character sheets. Things, kind of progressed. Well, it wind up becoming a spectator sport before people watched, gameplays on YouTube, because we played at a local hangout spot at college. And as the game would go on, people who were watching would come up to me and say, hey, can I get in on this game? And I said, sure, as long as you can come up with, a personality that is unique to, the game. You can't copy somebody else's abilities, because it would wind up messing with the storyline that they weren't really aware of, that was all, unfolding as the game went on. So what started off as like a 4 or 5 player game, just sitting there to watch, or to play, wound up becoming 18 to 20 people at college sitting there watching. We wound up having about 12 people on top of that as players in this game, as we got to explore this world and role play. And it was just fantastic, and all of us, myself included, were totally like sad to see it go. And as I've looked back on this game numerous times, I realized I could never replicate, this in any of the way, I couldn't do it again. Uh, it really required the college lifestyle of you come and you go, because that was, if you left the room, if you weren't there, your personality was dormant. If you came in and saw, oh, this is what's going on, well, your personality woke up. So there was no having to pause the game because somebody left the room. You didn't have to, look into any of that. Um, and it was just, it was fun. And if I attempted to do it now, the surprise factor would be gone. The, uh, like, I don't have a college hangout anymore. I'm 40 plus years old. So like, I would feel weird trying to sit in a place and have it be an in-house game with that many people. But it was just something that was a joy to run, a joy to be a part of. So that would have to be my best gaming memory.
Very, very cool. And where can we find you, Ted? As if people don't know.
Well, if you aren't familiar with Nerdarchy and you want to find out what it is that we're doing, we are on YouTube. We do have a website. We do have a convention that's, we're currently in the midst of planning. That's going to be next year, 2020 Halloween weekend. I know that, a handful of these people are all planning to, come in attendance and do some wonderful, cool stuff. But if you Google Nerdarchy, you will find us in every which way that you possibly can. We're on social media as well. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know who Mini Terrain Domain, yeah. My own name was visible on something. If you don't know Nerdarchy, you definitely need to check them out, because Nerdarchy has a ton of great resources. I mentioned the game that we play in, the monthly game that we play in, and during that game recently, a few sessions ago, something was brought up about one of the supplements that had to do with an alternate way of spending hit dice. And as soon as it was brought up, I went on nerdarchy.com, I bought the module, I downloaded it, and started using it within moments. Nerdator Doug was like in the chat, was like, I saw the purchase.
So yeah, that is Hit Dice to Heroics. We do have 5th edition products, digital purchase over on the website. I know a lot of play styles don't use hit dice because you don't take a lot of short rests, and our games are very much like that. So we decided to come up with a product to expend that that resource that's not being used, and I think it's a very fun and enjoyable product. So our games tend to allow the stuff that we create, of course.
All right, you got V and Scotty to throw it to you.
I am gonna throw it to Scotty.
All right, guys. First off, I want to say that wow, what a great year we've had. So much fun playing the game, discovering the characters. Just it's been great. I just want to thank everybody for, we're all adults taking the time to come to this. And thank you, Jake, for hosting. It's fantastic. So I have a couple. I'll try to be as quick as possible. A couple stories. One is a funny story where I've been running this game called Survive the Night, and it's called Aqualung. And the scenario is that the characters they wake up, they're in a sewer, they can't get out, it's locked. They have to figure out how to get out, and there's like death traps, and all these things in the sewer. And there's also a killer in a wetsuit, hence the name Aqualung. So he's like murdering people left and right. And the whole scenario, it's like, it's in my one shots, you tend to die. People tend to die. So, especially like a horror scenario, right? So I've had situations where I've had to have my wife. I wanted my wife to play, but she's already played the scenario, so she knows it. So I have her be working with the killer, like she's working with the Aqualung killer, right? So I actually played it with Jason at Origins. Or darn it, what's their crate, their dungeon box?
Realmsmith?
Oh, the
Realmsmith, thank
Realmsmith?
you. I
Yeah.
just drew a total blank. Realmsmith. I played it with them, and she was a traitor in that one, and one of the guys was a wingman, and he was her wingman. It was pretty funny when she betrayed him. But the funniest time when she betrayed him was I got together with some high school people, and I said, "Oh, let's play this game. It's fun." Only one of them had ever played a role-playing game before, so it was just like, you just basically tell me what you do, I tell you what you roll. That's all there is to it. So they're going through the dungeon, or they're going through the sewer, and Aqualung shows up. The killer shows up and grabs one of the characters by the hair and drags her into the sewer pipe. Well, the other characters all fail their saves and run away. They all fail their fear checks and they run away, except my wife's character. And the woman miraculously gets away from Aqualung before he murders her. And she's like, "Oh, let's get out of here." And my wife's waiting there at the end of the sewer and says, the Aqualung had fired a harpoon at him earlier, and they had given it to her, the traitor. So she's like, my wife's like, "Okay, I stab her with the harpoon." And they're all like, "What?" Because they weren't role players. They had never experienced this before. So they're like, any other role players are like, "Oh, you're a traitor." They would immediately, role players would immediately know that, "Oh, but you bastard, you're a traitor." But they didn't get it. It was 30 seconds for them to figure out what why did she do that? What what's going on? Why did she stab her? So it was funny that they had to figure out that she was a traitor. But that was pretty funny. And then the other story, I talked about earlier, where I just like to lay on, the drama for whatever horrible thing is happening. So they had befriended this elf who was working with an enemy, who was working for an enemy of theirs. They had saved her. They were actually, the enemy she was working for was going to kill her. And so they saved her, and her family had been cursed. And her brother was like this kind of hulking ogre-like elf. He wasn't like a normal elf. He was like this mutant kind of thing, from the family curse that they had. So when they escaped from the bad guy, one of the players had been captured. And when they escaped, and she said, "Well, I'll go back and get your friend," because she knew the enemy. She knew of him, and she thought she could sneak in and get their friend. And the reason their friend was captured is because he actually couldn't make it that session. So I just had him get captured. But anyways, so the elf goes in to get their friend, comes back through the portal, and she's coming down this path, and she's like, her veins are all black, and she's stumbling around, and she falls into the snow, and the players are running up to her, and it's like, what's happening? And it's like, the enemy was too strong. He put this curse on me. I couldn't free your friend. So I'd already worked out with the player character that he was going to die, or that he wanted his character to die and make another character. So I was going to let him die this death. So the players didn't know this. They're like, "Oh crap, what?" And she's like, "Oh, he's already dead," and all this. And they're like, "Oh God." So she falls into the snow, and then the enemy comes through the portal with a couple of elite guards that he's got, and that's when, as he does, the elf who's dying says, "Hide, hide! The enemy's after me." So they all run and hide in these crates that were nearby. So they're hiding in these crates, and the enemy comes out and sees her, and it's like, "You betrayed me, and we were lovers, and you betrayed me, and you betrayed our cult, and now you're gonna pay." And so then her brother comes running out, the mutated thing comes running out, and he's like, "No!" And he grabs her, and he's cradling her in the snow, and he's like, "Oh, sister," and the player's like, "Oh my God, this is awful." And then his henchmen start stabbing the mutant guy, and they're like, he's like, "Oh, sister," and he's cradling his sister, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is horrible." So, and they were like really at a bad point to like attack or anything. Like they were like really low on hit points, and they'd been beaten down, so it was like really would have been dangerous for them to reveal themselves. So the mutant guy just falls over in the snow, blood, draining out into the white snow. And then the warlock in the group is actually evil. It's something I don't normally do, but I allowed an evil warlock in the group. And the thing is, he's trying to get to the same goal as the player characters, so he can't mess them up. Like he can't ruin their plans and be a jerk, because he needs them to get to where he's going, right? So that's kind of the idea. So, but just then his patron says to him, he had found this magical sack. He didn't know what it was. It was like this black leather sack. And that's when his patron reveals to him that he needs to capture the soul of this dying elf's child. So the elf was like pregnant with the enemy's child, the enemy of their enemy's child, and the warlock captures the soul of the baby as the elf is dying, and they're like, "Oh my God, what?" And then and then the enemy sees it, like the soul comes out, the enemy sees the soul like dragged into the crate where the warlock is hiding, and the players are like, what are you doing? So they had set it up with the elf that she had this like magical whistle that would call these wyverns that would like come and take the crates. So they, as the enemy turns and is heading for the crate with his elite guard, like that's when they blow the whistle, and the wyverns come down and pull the crates off, and that was kind of end of scene. But it was like they were like, "What the hell? What are you doing?" And you almost revealed us. And what is this? What did you do? So it was just like really dramatic, really emotional, really cathartic. It was kind of a crazy fun moment. The players were just kind of reeling, but it was like, the thing was they couldn't do anything. They had to watch this horrible scene, and then their friend or not their friend, but their party member be involved in like this murder in front of their eyes. So yeah, it was pretty intense. So anyways, you can catch me at the theDMsCraft. Also, quest givers. I write modules for quest givers. I'm having a module come out soon. We're working on the Kickstarter right now, but I'm having another module come out soon. I've run with you guys where it's the Weirdly Strange Night of Terror with the zombies and the aliens. I'm about to release the module, and I'm doing a quick start guide. I've been working on my own RPG system. I'm doing a quick start guide with my RPG system. The rules are all integrated into the module, so you could run this module like straight from the quick start rules. You wouldn't have to have your own system or anything. So if any of you are interested in my DM Scotty's Easy D6 Quick Start, that would be cool to pick up. Now Ted has actually played my Quick Start. He's a playtester.
I love your Easy D6 system. I thought it was a lot of fun to play. Highly recommend. If you have not had a chance to play it, definitely check it out.
And V also got to play it at when we went to Mace. So I ran a Terminator teddy bear game with Terminator teddy bears. The central computer was called Ruxpin Prime. It was an enormous silver AI teddy bear.
I saw the pictures online. They're phenomenal.
So it was crazy fun. But anyways, yeah. So that's where you can find the old DM Scotty. And we are gonna now go to last but not least, V.
I thought you were
So
going to say, and
yourself,
then
V.
it was V's turn.
Yes.
Well, geez. Okay, probably my favorite RPG moment was actually at D&D in a Castle, and Ted was witness and part of it. Never in my life did I ever think I would see grown men get so into a dance-off to the point where the players were standing up and actually doing the moves and naming the moves that their characters were doing in the game. It was beautiful. We were all just, we were cracking up, we were laughing. Everyone was into the whole mentality of it. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience to share with everyone that night. It was just totally out of the blue. I had nothing planned for a dance off, but like, we're going to go on the dance floor and we're going to start dancing off with this one particular NPC who is being a jerk. And I think they want to dance off. And it's like, well, no, he was looking for a fist fight, but okay, a dance off it is.
And, it definitely gave you a whole new...
vomit on the dance floor.
A whole new tagline of vomit is all over the dance floor.
But that was just everyone like, oh, vomit's on the dance floor. And then you have Evie, like, she's like, do I need to call the maid? Do we have a cleanliness issue? It was just, it led to so many great little puns and goofiness. And in the end, vomit won. So that's definitely up there in some of the most memorable RPG moments for sure.
Well, I'm thankful to be a part of that.
Yeah, well, it's also because like we're a bunch of strangers that night and everyone just kind of clicked into this whole dance off. It was truly, oh my God, hysterical. I wish someone had taken video of that part because of how the second the one guy jumped off, who was a Minotaur, goes, and I take my axe and I start like stirring it and I'm the axe man. What was it? I'm trying to remember what the name of it was. It was something like punning the axe.
Oh, I don't remember. I thought it was like stirring the cauldron or something.
Something hysterical, but it was wonderful. But anyways, you can find me in a lot of places lately. I have my YouTube channel where I do live streams for miniature painting and terrain crafting. You can also find me here every Thursday. I am also a DM for the Cobalt Press Twitch channel. And you can also find me over on the Tabletop Crafters Guild as one of the guild masters with Scotty and some other lovely gentlemen. And then you can find me at a lot of conventions. Suddenly the con circuit has become my thing. And I will be at D&D in the Castle for this coming year for all 3 sessions. So yeah, next con is going to be ECCC and maybe PAX East. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell right now.
To tag on to that, I will also be at D&D in the Castle weeks 2 and 3. I will be a main GM for both of those. So
they're giving me a crafting room.
Oh boy. So you don't have to have one of those literal last minute elder brain incidents?
Oh no, we're gonna like myself and another person, we're supposed to be having this room where we can just like people can come in, paint their miniatures, craft things if they want to, and then have a room for our one shots.
Very cool.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Well, for me, I'm gonna finish up with one that's just one of my favorite moments as a player. But I have a lot of little moments, which I've talked about a little bit, is anytime the players put me into a situation where I have nothing prepared and I get to just inhabit an NPC and with the players, when I talk about that scene on the bridge with the Raven, when Fig and Talmud went to see this character that had nothing planned, and I say, oh yeah, that was 100% improv. I don't mean that to say, hey, I'm awesome because I just made this all up on the fly. I mean that to say those are the pure moments of role-playing and creativity, because it was myself, Megan, and Jeremy working together to build those scenes out. And it's happened with all of these characters at different points, that scenes like that will come up and you just go with it. One of the last scenes of season 2, spoiler alert, Forge of Fury, the characters got to meet Moradin and Eldath, their aspects, and they got to talk to the ghost of Durgadin the Black, the famed dwarven blacksmith, and they learned a lot from him. And that entire scenario was improvised by all of us, and it was one of my favorite scenes. So anytime I get to do that in a role-playing game as a DM is one of my favorite things. I love those kind of scenes. I've run some games. I don't run them very often. I run no more than 1 or 2 a year, but I have a series of games on my YouTube channel called The Affairs of Dragons, in which I let the players be dragons, straight out of the player's handbook. V played in the Young Dragons game called One Flew Over the Cockatrice Nest. Jeremy played in the first ever. In fact, I believe he played a red dragon named Regenavost or something like that.
Regenvost the Resentful.
Regenvost, yeah. And those games are fun because the characters, they're dragons. Sometimes they're young, sometimes they're adult. I played in one where I think they were adults, called The Destroyer of Worlds. I know Baron Cantriel was in it, and Taylor was in it, and they faced a Tarask. In the first game, they faced off against an aspect of Tiamat. And those are always fun because it's such a unique position to be in as a player, to get to play as a dragon. And to get dragons, chromatics, and what are they called? What's the opposite of chromatic? They're called
Metallic.
Metallic. Anyway, to get them to work together, those are always fun. Another thing that's fun for me as a DM, I mentioned the shared world. That all of my campaigns, now though not necessarily on the same timeline or in the same time frame, they all take place in the Forgotten Realms. And so you will often find that I reuse certain characters. Or in this campaign, when they got to Saltmarsh, they went to the... somebody have to remind me, it was the house of something, the temple, I can't think of the name of it right now, but where the Weeping Friars were, that ultimately Brother Matthias helped Griveth with his cleansing ritual. And Brother Matthias, when I mentioned who that character was, my eyes were on Megan. Because Brother Matthias, in timeline-wise, 20-some years later, was the major foil to Megan's Celestial Warlock in our Cult of Personality game. He was the
Open Soul.
Yes, House of the Open Soul. Thank you, Ted. Brother Matthias was a major foil and caused, within a pocket dimension and a rift in time that for the other characters only took moments, Megan's character spent 6 months in captivity being tortured by Brother Matthias. That ultimately gave her more power. So I loved the idea of a place to put this character that was familiar. And Megan pulled it on me, too, when I was watching one of their early games of Spire. She brought in a character named Brother Matthias. That was like a little Easter egg. So you never know when one of your characters or something related to your character may show up in another game. I think we established that the Copper Bell, the tabaxi that briefly accompanied them in Chult, was a distant cousin of 6 Days into Summer in Waterdeep. My dwarf, Eli Lancaster, in Megan's Curse of Strahd, has mentioned his cousin Talmud elsewhere in the world. So I love seeing the reaction of players or DMs when dropping those little things. One of my favorite moments as a player happened a couple years ago. My friend Dwight, who plays in our Waterdeep Dragon Heist game, was DMing a randomly rolled up dungeon. We were fighting Cambion brother and sister, and I was playing a Minotaur bard who had a flame tongue sword. And we had already killed the sister of the Cambions, which made the brother pissed. We were in a Slayer room in the dungeon. We called it the Slayer room because it was literally raining blood from the ceiling. And the Cambions descended out of this blood. As we're fighting them, it comes my turn in the initiative, and the Cambion's been knocked down quite a bit. And I rolled really well, and narratively, I come up to him, I close in on him, I'm holding my longsword in two hands, and I step in and I jam the longsword in and up. And as I shove it into his abdomen, I grab him and pull him close on the blade so that our face, my Minotaur face and his Cambion face, are nose to nose, and I whisper in his face, Pyros, which is the command word to bonus action ignite my flame sword. He bursts into flames. Flame shoots out of his eyes and his mouth. The way the DM described it, it's just one of my favorite moments as a player to get that spectacular kill shot. And this is a character who, not an hour before, when crossing a 10-foot gap, decided to try to flip over it, rolled a nat 1 and fell in the pit. So you got to counteract those nat 1s with crits every once in a while. But that was one of my favorite moments as a player. I've already told you where you can find me right here on Twitch and on YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, come on over to YouTube and join the now over 10,000 subscribers that are a part of Mini Terrain Domain. I recently got access to stories on YouTube mobile, so I'm starting to use those. I forgot to mention, I said on Saturdays nothing is happening, and that was a lie. One Saturday a month, I play in Descent into Avernus, DM'd by Lee, also known as Juice or Master of the Game RPG, playing alongside Luke, from the DM's Lair, Nate from WASD 20, and Lee's wife, Paula, who is known as the Awkwardly Nerdy One, does mini painting and stuff. And I drive over to Lee's house 30 minutes away, and we play in his game room all together at the same table and broadcast that game on Twitch. So be sure to subscribe to Master the Game RPG on Twitch so you can check out those games. You can find me on Twitter at MTD_Jake, where I'm probably the most active on there. I want to thank all of you just for being who you are. And we said it at the beginning, and I'm going to say it again. This is a place of refuge. Very rarely will I cancel a game very reluctantly will I cancel a game on Thursday nights. If we have too many absences, too many people that can't be here for circumstances, or I got to be sick or be hurting really bad to call off this game, because this is the one that really is the catharsis. It's what I need when I'm having a bad day. Just getting together with you guys, rolling some dice, telling some stories, having some fun. It's just great. I'm glad that we've all found this common ground that started from what was supposed to be just 5 games a year and a half ago, and now are some of my best friends. So thank you to each one of you for bringing everything that you bring, your unique voice, your unique character, and your personality, but you as a person for being a part of this. From the bottom of my heart, I love you guys. Scotty, Megan, Ted, Jeremy, and V. You're some of my dearest friends, and this game just means the world to me, and I'm so thankful that we can share it with so many people out in the world. So, and right now,
virtual hugs for everybody.
Right now, I've got on my Dawnbringers checklist, I've marked off Megan and Jeremy twice for getting to meet them in person, getting real world hugs. Circumstances prevented me from meeting Ted and Scotty in person a while back, but I'm going to be at NerdarchyCon at the least, so should be able to meet everybody else, and I'm still determined to make my way down. Scotty's only a few hours away from me, so I want to just sit once in that skull throne that Scotty sits in. So thank you all just for being who you are. And, to all of you in the audience, that goes to you as well. We appreciate you. We love you. We're glad you choose to spend Thursday nights with us. And if you are somebody who celebrates Christmas, I want to wish you a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. This is the last Dawnbringers until January. And it'll either be the 2nd or the 9th that we resume with the Dawnbringers. So stay tuned for that. Megan, somehow I think I'm catching your cold over the internet. I'm getting congested just sitting here. It's because I mocked you trying to do your voice. You know the terrible thing about when you get sick? See, I'm getting there. I got to listen to it again. But yeah, Merry Christmas. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, we just wish you the best in whatever it is that you choose to do during this time. We wish you the best always. I didn't say it at the beginning of the stream. I kind of regret it, but I'm going to say it now because I say it all the time in every stream that no matter where you are, who you are, what you got going on, if you're a lurker that never speaks up in chat, which is fine, if you need help is available to you. And we run the number. I got to change the scroll at the bottom to include the other numbers. But you can type _help at any time during our streams, or you can just search for help. But we do provide a link there to in the United States, you can call the National Suicide Hotline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text 741-741. In Canada, you can text the word connect for English or parler for French to 686-868, or you can call the toll-free number at 1-833-456-4566, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in French or English. Mental health and suicide prevention are major things that we are passionate about here. So we want you to know that those resources are available to you. Thank you to everybody who resubbed tonight. Thank you to Spike, who dropped at some point, I missed it, dropped 1,000 bits. I have increased your domain dice up to 121. We have adjusted the domain dice rule that you can just keep spending them until you get the roll you want. Just spend them, spend the domain dice, use them all. So with that, I'm doing my typical ramble at the end because I don't know how to end a stream. It's just that reluctance. I'm that guy that I'm one of the last people to leave a party, and I'm the one that stands in the doorway while the freezing cold air is coming in and says, well, I got to get going, and then leaves 45 minutes later. So we are going to finally say goodbye or good evening, and we will see you in the new year in 2020 for more Dawnbringers. So we are going to end the stream the same way we end every stream, and you can say it with me if you want.